Three critical errors that a lot of you guys make in your long-term relationships or marriages. So this will be good for all you guys that have considered or are in any of one of those scenarios. I do a lot of coaching with a ton of guys. I get a lot of social clips and screenshots sent to me. And, I trip over this stuff kind of like, throughout the course of my day as I'm just kind of going about my business. And I got to tell you, this pops up way too often, these three things. The first two are going to be the most important. The third just kind of sums it all up. So the first one is the whole asking for permission to do or buy things from and it doesn't necessarily have to be wife, could be girlfriend, significant other, whatever the hell you want to call it, but looking for permission to do things that you would otherwise normally do as a man, as a single man. There's absolutely no reason why in a relationship, guys, you should be letting go or giving up things that matter to you. I've seen guys say things like in group discussions about, my wife just gave me permission. Like, oh wow, I got permission to do something I could normally do on my own had I not had a wife or a girlfriend or a significant other. But my wife just gave me permission and a budget for, like $3,000 to spend on my next mountain bike or something like that. And by the way, that's not a lot of money for a mountain bike for those of you that don't mountain bike. They do cost quite a bit more when you get into the nicer equipment. I mean, you can still get something reasonable for that amount, but my dear God, imagine being, in a position where you as a guy need to ask, like as a grown-ass adult, need to get the permission of your wife or girlfriend or whatever to go and do something that you would normally want to go and do. Another one that I've seen many times before is a lot of guys will, get into these LTRs or marriages, and women make them give up things like their guns. They have a passion for hunting or for target shooting, clay skeet, just sending lead down range in a little target, over and over again. A lot of guys like that. And I'll tell you straight up, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I've got my own collection. I like to do it whenever I get a chance to get out. But a lot of guys will just give that up because, their wives or their wife's family, or maybe it's their culture or, something. It's a prohibited thing. Like they're scary, they're bad, they're terrible. So, you as a guy are no longer allowed to have that, in your household. Whereas prior to that, you might have grown up around it. Maybe you got your first 22 when you were, 7 years old and your dad took you to the range or the backyard to shoot pop bottles or something like that. It just blows my mind that these otherwise successful grown-ass men are willing to bend the knee and give up things that matter to them. Now, some guys might argue, well, Rich, that's what you got to do in a relationship, and I'll tell you that's not the case, and that's why I put a third one here on the end of this one, so we'll deal with that more towards the end. The other thing that I've seen, which is a precursor to problems in the relationship, and even really starts the clock ticking down to the end of the relationship at some point for many of guys that do the second thing as well. So the first one is just like, okay, that's bad. The second one is total and utter lack of respect. And I see this in social environments, in family gatherings and stuff like that, where the wife, usually after a long-term basis where they've been together for a while, is quite disparaging to her husband, her boyfriend, whatever. And they clearly don't have genuine burning desire for them anymore. They're just a tool to facilitate whatever it is that they're looking to accomplish in their life. Renovate the next kitchen, buy the next house, take the next trip or the next journey. And these women just, it's pretty disgusting when you see it. And when you start to see the code in the matrix as a guy, how, these women will disparage their husbands, the guy that's really supposed to lead, the guy that's supposed to be at the head of the household, who's supposed to be the king and she's the queen and all that sort of stuff, is we've been lyricked our entire lives with, Disney-esque movies and stuff like that, treating him like a bag of garbage, worse than what they would treat their boss at work or a coworker, an employee or a vendor or anything like that, they treat them like literally a bag of dog shit. And you're going to see this, you know, if you haven't seen it, you start to open your eyes to it, you're going to see it more and more as you start to pay attention to these sorts of dynamics in relationships. It's one of the things that I can't help to pay attention to right now. And it's not because, oh, rich or bitter or some nonsense like that. It's just, I'm attentive to these things and I find it very interesting. I find human behavior very interesting. I find applying, you know, that red pill lens to human behavior very interesting. And I invite you guys to start doing the same thing, because you will notice these things popping up from time to time. Anytime I've seen a woman that sets boundaries and control around a guy, like, you know, he needs permission to go buy that mountain bike or to go to the range or to get that new fishing rod or something like that, and she disrespects him openly in front of other people, I'm telling you guys, that is not a good relationship. They don't have great intimacy. He certainly is not leading the family, and the clock is likely ticking down to the end of that long-term relationship, which can end in disaster, because as we all know, you know, family law is quite hostile towards fathers. It's very friendly towards mothers. It's very mother-friendly. Everything in family law, in fact, doesn't even encourage her to behave well during the divorce. It encourages her to behave quite hostile. So that's the second point. Wrapping it up on thought number 3 on this one, the whole happy wife, happy life lyrics. When you hear this, you can never unhear it again. These guys are sad, you know, like former versions of their Chad selves. You know, I've seen these guys, you know, with the barbed wire tattoo around their arm, and, you know, they're looking for approval to buy a mountain bike. You know, they get disrespected by their spouse and they walk around at family events and gatherings or in front of other people and they're like, oh, you know, Bill, you know, your wife is so pleasant. And she's like, yeah, he's lucky to have me, sort of thing. And, you know, he's like, yeah, happy wife, happy life. That's all I got to do is just stamp everything. Yes, 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 yes. That doesn't work. Happy wife, happy life is a lie. There is no father or dad equivalent of, you know, happy father or happy king or any of those things. None of those things exist. The trope does not ever get repeated by women like, yes, you know, he's my king, or I'll do whatever it takes to make him happier. You know, if his stomach's empty, I'll put a sandwich in his hand, and you know, if he's got a erection, I'll take care of that. There's no rhyme for that. It doesn't exist. It's always happy wife, happy life. So pay attention to these 3 things, guys. If you're getting into an LTR, if you're considering doing anything on a long-term basis with a woman, and you find yourself, you know, tripping over these, potential obstacles which lead to train wrecks for men, course correct. Be attentive to it. Lead. You're the frickin' man. If you're in a long-term relationship or a marriage and you're finding yourself watching this going, well, I don't like hearing it, but he's right. Well, there's some things that you can do. Start working on that. Start learning game, pay attention to things like dread and things like that.
All right, guys, I really hope that you enjoyed that clip. If you want to check out the full-length podcast episode, you can find that right over here. Also, make sure you visit my website over here where you'll find my supplements, the opportunity to book me privately one-on-one for coaching, and most importantly, my new School of Unplugging, which you'll find on the courses tab. Newer to the channel, hit subscribe.